Hello and shalom everybody. I'm Dror from Logical Form, and what we do is blockchain and data templates for banking and traditional financial systems. To summarize a long 2 years story in few sentences, we started looking at the Bitcoin and the Bitcoin technology from a very specific angle. We were asking what can be done, what needs to be done to embed this technology within the current financial regulation and legal systems. We're looking at the different advantages and strength points of the technology, and we came out eventually with two very different products. One, utilizing the partial anonymity of the transactional engine for use in sharing medical records and genetic drug discovery. And the other one was using the secured transaction engine in the traditional financial systems. Now, since it's very difficult to make even one startup at a time, I needed to decide which one will be the first, which one will go to the market, the DNA bits or the financial templates. And I thought that the burning need and a major sales pitch is saving thousands of lives in drug discovery. So I assumed it will be easier to sell the partial anonymity to the big data health industry. And what I found out is, after talking to potential clients, investors, when you deal with traditional markets, you cannot jump too many steps at once. You need to follow the natural order of things. And people told me, basically, if you're going to use financial technology to do other things, first have it proved within the existing financial system. Then we might trust you or the technology doing other things as well. So we set out with Logical Form, and luckily Citigroup and Citibank opened a fintech accelerator in Israel, and we are accepted to the program. And what I wanted to share with you in the next few minutes is things that we learned along the way. Basically, the trustless protocol, what can such a trustless software can do in a world of trusted parties? Or are they completely contradictory, or can they be somehow merged? I think this is the basic question, and I want to look for a second, when we say trustless, dedicate a few minutes to discuss this trust. There was a good article, which is a nice entry point to this subject, published at the ACMQ, Who Must You Trust? And I recommend anyone who didn't read, I recommend reading it. And there are a few interesting things that we need to take into account when we talk about trust. When we are dealing with the Bitcoin world, who do we trust? Miners. This slide was extracted from blockchain.info yesterday or the day before. How many parties are required? How many people or system administrators are required to launch a 51% attack against the Bitcoin network? I think looking at this slide gives a very clear answer. We need to trust exchanges. Well, the quotes I brought here from CoinDesk are speaking for themselves, but we all know the problems of trusting exchange systems, and there are many solutions suggested to these problems. We need to trust that there will not be forks, or if there will be forks, that they will be agreed by everybody. And just as an example, if anyone remembers the Vericoin case, where developers and miners have decided to roll back and fork in order to recover from a hack. So even a blockchain can be forked and rolled back if agreed by more than 51% of the network in order to protect from losses or something like that. Okay, another thing that we need to trust is the code. It's very difficult to write solid and secure code. And well, Peter said something about Mike's comments about the code development, but I think everybody will agree that there are major issues with the long-term funding of the code development. Writing secure code is a very heavy task, and the question is who will dedicate the resources in the long term for maintaining and developing such a solid and secure code. In traditional financial systems, the solution for trust is governments, central banks, legal systems, regulation systems, and accounting procedures. It's very important to differentiate between the algorithm and the mathematics, which are relatively easier to trust, and economy and technology, which add many layers that you need to trust, even in the Bitcoin economy. So the first argument here is there might be trustless algorithm, but it's very difficult to build a trustless system or economy. You still need the trusted parties. After we established that even when Professor Ben Sasson, he mentioned zero cash, you need a trusted party to launch the first verification key. Let's look at the current financial situation. Many people don't know that banks are actually, the major banks are actually huge IT organization. Citibank has more than 40,000 software engineers. By the end of the year, they're going to have 30,000 people working on compliance. And my assumption is that those guys are not going anywhere soon. They are probably here to stay for a while. And these are huge resources. So if there was a way to harness some of these resources into the Bitcoin world and to harness the Bitcoin technology into the current banking and financial infrastructure, probably all the problems I mentioned before, or most of them, could be solved. So what logical form does is what we think is a form of win-win solution. Assuming that trusted parties are here to stay, we also assume that open source has much better potential to become a global protocol. And that's why we need to stick with the lowest common denominator, or maybe the proven work of the actual Bitcoin protocol, or something very, very, or as much as possible similar to the Bitcoin protocol, and keep it open source in order for the banking system and the financial system to adopt it as a global protocol for communicating between themselves. And the next assumption is that blockchain can solve problems banks are facing today. Some of the systems that work in the middle and back office of the banking systems are systems that cost them billions of dollars every year. They are based on 30 or 40 years old business models and technologies, and they are very, very expensive to maintain and operate, and blockchain can replace some of these technologies. The community will benefit from the extension of the resources of the banking world to contribute and write and secure much better code. And the last point is, I think it's easier for banks to adopt a proven technology rather than a new unregulated currency. And this is why we are concentrating on utilizing the technology for use in current systems, rather than bringing actual cryptocurrencies as value storage to the bank. Once the banks will have the blockchain nodes doing blockchain work, when Bitcoin becomes regulated, they will have people to deal with it, they'll have hardware and software to deal with it, and this, I think, will pave the way and will be much easier. The last thing, I think we all need to thank all the Israeli scene around Bitcoin and financial technology, the guys organizing conferences like this, which enable Israeli startups exposure and innovation in the global market. And the things we got from City Tel Aviv Accelerator. Thank you all.